with the formality, to proceed with the formality, I would like to invite Leo Dinisha to present the welcome address. Dinisha, over to you.
Good evening, dear Leos, guests, and fellow nature lovers. It is with great pleasure that I welcome you all to Project Pearl. The time to save the ocean is now, our online awareness project. This project had been months in the making since the news of the Pearl Express catastrophe hit the news. And we are extremely pleased to have OCEA, an esteemed marine conservation and research organization, on board with us today to conduct the session. We hope you find this hour-long session both timely and informative, and that it helps open your eyes to the reality of the developing situation. I'd like to request all attendees, minus the lecturer, to keep their mics muted during the session to avoid all disruption. By the end, there will be a Q&A session to answer all of your burning questions, so feel free to drop questions in the chat box. Now, I would like to invite Leo Sandali Fernando to introduce our guest speaker to you all. Sandali.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker tonight, who will address the audience on a crucial and timely topic, most relevant to the current context of Sri Lankan ocean biodiversity. The speaker will take us through the subject of turtle and coral conservation and introduce the ongoing seagrass planting project, which indeed is a great initiative and educative experience. This is a subject we should be mindful of and collectively contribute as it directly impacts the conservation of planet Earth. Our speaker for tonight, Ms. Chathurika Munasinghe, is a lecturer at the Department of Zoology, Faculty of Science, University of Peradeniya, and a founding member of OCEA, which stands for Ocean Conservation and Education Alliance. OCEA is an organization striving towards connecting university research and local community knowledge. Ms. Munasinghe engages in research on climate change impact on coral reef, sea turtle conservation, seagrass restoration, and shipwreck biodiversity. Interestingly, she is also a certified scuba dive master and a free diver. I would now like to invite Ms. Chathurika Munasinghe to enlighten us on the topic of ocean life and conservation.
All right. First of all, thank you, Leo Club, for having me today. And also thank you, Sandali, for the brief introduction about me. So we all know, I guess we all know, this is the time to talk about the oceans more and to help the oceans to recover themselves by themselves. And so it is now the time to save the oceans. And also, I'll give you a little introduction to the layout of the talk today. Like Sandali also mentioned, I'll be talking about mainly about the sea turtles and also how these sea turtles help the coral reefs. So we will be talking about the coral reefs and how these sea turtles are important for coral reefs and how coral reefs are important for sea turtles as well. And also we will be linking another marine habitat, a coastal ecosystem, seagrasses, to this topic. And by the end, you will know how all these ecosystems are interlinked and how they help to give the best of their services to the humankind. So the reason why we have to talk about oceans is because they are the lungs of the earth. So why we say that oceans are the lungs of the earth? It's because 80% of the oxygen we breathe right now, it comes from the ocean. If I say that if you think that rainforests are the main source of oxygen we breathe, it is actually wrong, because oceans are the producer of about 50% to 80% oxygen we breathe. So there are tiny organisms, most of them are very microscopic. These organisms are called planktons, and usually they are on the surface and then in the water column as well. These tiny organisms, they produce the oxygen that we breathe. So basically oceans are the lungs of the earth, and that is one reason why we talk about oceans today and why we try to help the oceans to recover from the disasters like we are facing today. So the reason why we are more concerned about the oceans today is because of this disaster. We all know about it. I'm pretty sure that all of you are like listening to news and then following up this incident. And this is like the worst marine disaster in Sri Lanka's history. And we also how our triforces cleaned the beaches. There were a lot of nurdles came ashore, and then they were like, yeah, it is devastating to see the damage they are causing. And also we all see the lot of marine creatures, especially the sea turtles, dying out because of this. And up to date, like we don't have a database up to now, like we have requested it from the Department of Wildlife Conservation, but we know like more than about 70 sea turtles have died, and dolphins, dugongs, whales, and other marine creatures like eels, fish have died because of these incidents. So it is the best time to talk about sea turtles and also other marine ecosystems, other marine creatures right now. And it is really good that we educate ourselves about these marine creatures and the ecosystems, their roles they play in the ecosystems, and let's see what we can do to help these creatures in the future. We are already we have been destroying these oceans for like many years, and right now, if we are not too late to help the oceans recover, if we do our part today, I think there is a little hope that we can save the oceans and we can make it a better place for us as well, and for these innocent, beautiful creatures. So I'll talk a little bit about the sea turtles that we have in Sri Lanka. In the world, there are about 7 species of sea turtles, but in Sri Lanka, we only have 5 species of sea turtles that come ashore for nesting. So I'll just go through the names so that you can get yourself a little familiar with the names of the sea turtles. And also it is a fact that we all should know, like all these sea turtles are threatened. That means they are like somehow going towards the extinction if we don't help them to recover their populations. So the hawksbill sea turtle, we call them Potukaspera. The reason is like these hawksbill sea turtles, why we call them like that is because their mouths are like a bill of a hawk. So that's why we call them hawksbill. And in Sinhalese, we call them Potukaspera because they on their carapace, they have scales that have been collected in the past. Now it is illegal, but it has been done in some countries in the world. It needs to be banned, but these scales have been collected, and people use these scales to make jewelry or accessories. So that's why, because of this scales on the carapace, we call it Potukaspera. And also then there's green sea turtle. So in Sinhalese, we call it Colocaspera, like converting green turtle to Colocaspera, but it is more accurate to call them Galcaspera as well. And both these hawksbill sea turtle and green sea turtle, they are endangered. Actually, hawksbill sea turtles are critically endangered. That means they are somewhat closer to be extinct than the other sea turtles. That means they are in more danger than the other 3 species. So we have loggerhead sea turtle, we call it Olugedicaspera. And the reason why we call it is because these loggerhead sea turtles, they usually feed on shelled organisms and mollusks. So if you are familiar with conch shells, so these turtles can crunch those shells and eat the mollusk or the animal inside. And to do that, they have very powerful jaws, and because of this powerful jaws, they have big heads, and that's why we call them loggerhead sea turtles. And the olive ridley sea turtles, it is the smallest sea turtle that we have, and we call it Batucaspera, obviously because of his small size. And then there is leatherback sea turtle. This sea turtle is a little different from other 4 species because all the other species, they have a carapace which is a little bit hard. But this leatherback sea turtle, it doesn't have this hard carapace, that means the top shell. So this leatherback sea turtle's shell is somewhat leathery, and then it has some ridges on it. And that's why we call it Darakaspava in Sinhalese. So these are the 5 species of sea turtles that we have around Sri Lanka. These 5 species come ashore for nesting around Sri Lanka. And due to this express pearl disaster, green turtle and olive ridley turtles have been most affected from this incident. So I'll tell you a little bit about the history of these turtles. So these sea turtles, they have been here for like millions of years. They have seen the dinosaurs, they have seen dinosaurs going extinct, they have seen mass extinctions, and also they have seen various kinds of natural disasters, and also they have seen climate change, but they have been quite evolving and they have been surviving. But nowadays, because of the human activities, these animals, these innocent creatures, are trying it a bit difficult to live in the oceans, and we are to be blamed for that. So let us help them a little bit. Like they've been evolving, they've been surviving so well. So let us help them a little bit to survive in their natural habitat more. So one of the reasons why we use these sea turtles in marine conservation is they have relatively large body size, right? So if I'm not sure whether you have seen a sea turtle, but they are quite big, like, you know, bigger than a fish. Like some of them can grow up to about 4 or 5 feet. Some of them can, like the leatherback sea turtle is the largest species we have, and these leatherback sea turtles, they can grow up to 10 feet, 14 feet. So that means quite a big size, right? So we can clearly see them, and also they have this unthreatening nature, like, you know, these sea turtles, they are very innocent, and if you look at them, you can see that they are very they have this very pleasant nature, you know. They are not threatening to anybody. And also if you see it underwater, or if you see it when they come ashore, you can see like they are very innocent creatures. And also they have, like, maybe you have heard that they say that the sea turtles, so the female sea turtles, they come ashore for nesting. So some say that the female sea turtle is crying. So what we actually see is they have salt excretion glands close to their eyes. And from these salt excretion glands, they have this excessive salt coming out. And when it gets a little bit mixed with the sand on the beaches, it looks like she is crying. So because of this, you know, because of the stories, and also these sea turtles have been used in images, like they are used in popular images like Ninja Turtles, and they've been used in stamps in Sri Lanka, in other countries, and they've been used in notes, and also some countries like the Cayman Islands have sea turtle in their flags. So for these kind of reasons, we are using these sea turtles for marine conservation. And also we all know that they are quite accessible. Like if you go for snorkeling, let's say you are going for snorkeling in Pigeon Islands, and then there is a very higher chance, like about 60%, 70%, or maybe 80% chance that you see a sea turtle in the shallow waters among the coral reefs. So they are quite seen, and they just walk towards the beach and towards the area where there is vegetation, and then they lay their eggs and they go back. So you can clearly see them. And what you see in this the picture in the right hand corner, there are places where there is large number of sea turtles, you know, like about thousands of sea turtles coming ashore. Mostly these sea turtles are olive ridley sea turtles. They come ashore at once. So one example is in India, in Orissa, and also in Costa Rica, you can see these sea turtles. It is called aribada. And then it's something like, you know, during the season, there are a lot of guests going there to make sea turtles quite close to us. And we all know that they are accessible. But beyond this charisma, they do a very good service and function to the ecology and the biology of the oceans. Sure, like they are linked with the coastal habitats as well. So these sea turtles, they live in the tropical regions, subtropical regions, temperate regions. They have a quite a vast diversity and a vast range of dispersion. So they are seen in many parts of the world. And also they have oceanic, like transoceanic migration, means that as a turtle in Indian Ocean, they might migrate to the Atlantic Ocean. Actually, there are some satellite tagged turtles who has been recorded in Australia, and they have been recorded in South America as well. And also some sea turtles from Australia, they migrate to Maldives, and likewise, so they have very good migration patterns as well. And also these sea turtles, they are found in pretty much everywhere in the ocean. Like, if you take leatherback sea turtles and olive ridley sea turtles, they are quite often found in the open ocean. That means somewhat deep oceans. But if you take the hawksbill sea turtle, the mostly seen sea turtle in Sri Lanka, they're mostly found in coral reefs. And if you take the green sea turtle, they'll be mostly found in the seagrasses or in the algal reefs. So they are quite, they occupy divergent marine habitats as well. So this is a photo taken in Pigeon Islands about 2 years back. And you can see this turtle is munching on the corals, but it's not actually the coral. They are feeding on, we call them corallimorphs. So these hawksbill sea turtle, they do a very essential job in the coral reefs by just eating, right? They just eat the sponges and corallimorphs like you see in the ocean. So these sponges are quite competitive for the corals. So when there are sea turtles, these sea turtles, they will eat the sponges, and then they give space to coral reefs to grow. So there is less competition from sponges to corals to grow when there are sea turtles. And we are talking about not just single sea turtle that we see in this picture. There are a lot of sea turtles in a coral reef, and they will help the coral reef to grow more healthier. And also, so since we know the charisma and the ecological and biological functions of these sea turtles, they have been used as a flagship species. What is a flagship species? So a flagship species is some species that are being used as an icon for marine conservation. It could be for conservation, it could be for awareness. So these sea turtles are being used as a flagship species for marine conservation because they represent a diverse like marine habitats, and also they are being threatened by human activities, and they actually represent both marine and coastal waters as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the threats faced by these sea turtles. So in this is a picture from the internet, and this is quite being used to identify the threats faced by sea turtles. So the leatherback sea turtles, they usually eat the jellyfishes. So like, what would you do if you see a pizza, let's say a pizza, like you will just, if you're hungry, you will just go grab a piece and then put it in your mouth, right? So it's the same for the sea turtles. So jellyfish are the favorite meal of leatherback sea turtles. So when they see a jellyfish, they will quickly swim close to the jellyfish and then munch on it. But they don't know something called polythene in the oceans. They have not been used to it. They don't know about it. But we can distinguish between the jellyfish and the polythene in this picture. But in the ocean, these sea turtles, they cannot distinguish this polythene and the jellyfish. What they will do is they will quickly swim towards the polythene, and they will have it in their mouths. And these sea turtles, they can, like, these polythenes can go into their system, like into the guts, and then they can die from starvation, or while they try to grab these pieces, they can get, like, if it is an area with a lot of polythenes, they can get entangled, and these kind of things can lead to the death of these sea turtles. And also, this is something like, it's been like, there are lots of pictures in the internet as well, like to see the long-term effects of this plastic pollution for the sea turtles. So just imagine you growing up with a plastic thread around you. So this is similar to that. Like these sea turtles, somehow they have came across with this plastic, and then like us, they just can't take it out from like their carapace or something, and then they just can't get rid of it, and then they have to grow up with it. And you can see these deformed sea turtles, and it is something very sad to see, of course. And then ghost nets, like ghost nets have been the biggest problem, biggest threat for these sea turtles for years. So these ghost nets, So what are these ghost nets? So these ghost nets are like the abandoned fishing nets. So once a fish net is no longer useful to a fisherman, they will just abandon it in the ocean, or maybe they will just leave it, like maybe they have taken it to the ocean and then just leave it there. And these ghost nets, since they are plastic, they will be there for like hundreds of years. And these sea turtles, this is a little video that one sea turtle getting entangled in this ghost net, and then it somehow manages to swim with the ghost net. But this is not the fate of many of the sea turtles that get entangled in these ghost nets. They either get trapped there. So these sea turtles, they are reptiles. They have lungs. They have to come to the surface to breathe, right? So once they get trapped in the water, they cannot come up. So they will suffocate and die. And some of the ghost nets, they are on the surface. So they are like drifting along the ocean with the currents, but they are on the surface. Since it is on the surface, the turtle can actually breathe because it is on the surface, but they can't move because it's trapped. But just imagine like you are trapped, you see the vast ocean, you see your food, but you can't just go and grab it because you are trapped. So that happens to these sea turtles who get entangled in these nets and then they starve to death. So luckily, our neighboring country, they have a very good rescue system. So these are some of the pictures from Maldives, where they rescue the sea turtles. Mostly they are trapped in ghost nets. I told you that ghost nets have been the biggest threat for the sea turtles. And they have these rescue centers where, like, Maldives has this fishing to some level, but tourism is the main income for their country. So they try to conserve the species, try to protect this species. So whenever they go out there, and then, you know, sometimes they are with their guests, but if they see a turtle struggling, like entangled in a ghost nets, they would rescue the sea turtles and then bring these sea turtles to a rescue or rehabilitation center. So in these rehabilitation centers, what they do is they keep these sea turtles in large pools, enough space for them to move, and we feed them daily, and we monitor their health. We weigh them daily just to see whether they are eating well, eating properly. Likewise, and then some of the sea turtles, they lack energy, so we give dextrose injections and so on. And the picture in the right hand corner, you can see the sea turtle has lost both her front legs. We call them flippers. Both the front flippers are lost. So this happens when the sea turtle get trapped in the ghost net. It tries to, like, you know, let go of the ghost net. So while it tries to do that, it will cut their flippers by rubbing, and then with time, these flippers, they get infected most of the times, and then sometimes they already lose their flippers while they are in the ocean, or sometimes when they are taken to the rehabilitation center, we have to cut their or amputate their flippers because it can cause infection and cause the turtle to die. And also, when a turtle has been submitted to the rescue center, we measure them. Some sea turtles are quite young, and some are like adult sea turtles. And then when they are like, some of them have various syndromes, like they refuse to eat. Some of them have buoyancy syndromes. They can't just dive. They are on the surface. They can't go dive because a lot of air been accumulated inside them. So these turtles, they need proper veterinary attention, and they need some help to recover. So once they are ready to go back to the ocean, the turtles with flippers and who are ready to go, they are being released back to the ocean as well. And also, we have this in Sri Lanka and in other countries as well, turtle nest poaching. That means like when a sea turtle, female sea turtle come ashore for egg laying, people will just go and collect their eggs. So once I had this, you know, bad memory in Kosgoda, like it in Ambalangona. So like when we were just walking on the beach, and then there was this sea turtle who crawled to the vegetation by the beach just to lay her eggs. So and then we went there to see, but what we saw is it's quite sad. It's very sad, like the person is collecting the eggs while the turtle is laying the eggs. So it just collect the eggs that the turtle is laying into a bag just to sell to a hotel, or it is nest poaching is illegal, so it is illegal. The reason why we couldn't confront it is because, you know, they are from the village, and then we didn't have, I mean, there were only 2 of us, and then they have, you know, knives with them because they know it is illegal. So the best way is to educate these kind of people. And in Sri Lanka, we have very good examples where these poachers being educated, and in Rakava by the Turtle Conservation Project, they've been functioning since 1993, and then in Rakava, these turtle nest poachers were educated, and now they are patrolling the beaches to find these sea turtles and just to protect the nesting sites. So that is something that we are working on as well, because awareness is the key for this kind of thing. And also there is a reason why we can't blame these, I mean, not like blaming, but we can't do legal actions because it's their livelihood. But if we can provide some incentives for these poor people, and then to educate them together with education, then they will definitely try to protect these sea turtle nests as well. And also then there are marine disasters. So one good experience is the Express Pearl. And this is an infographic from Raw Media. So examples for some of the marine disasters happened around Sri Lanka for the past 10 years. So these marine disasters, they are happening, like they are not very common, but they are happening. And also right now when we are talking, there's a fire in the southern coast, like MSC Messina is on fire right now. Luckily, it's somewhat away from the shore. It is about 480 nautical miles away from the Great Barrier Reef, but we don't know what will happen. Like, you know, we don't know the impact of it. We have to be ready for it. And we all know, like before this Express fire, there was this empty New Diamond fire. And then also there was a little oil spill, and the eastern part of our country was affected. And also there were some deaths of turtles and other marine creatures because of this fire. And if you just Google the marine traffic today in Sri Lanka, you will see how many ships are going around our country. Just type marine traffic in Sri Lanka, or just type marine traffic, and you will see a map, how many ships going around our country. So when there are a large number of ships going around, there can be accidents, there can be fires, there can be oil spills, but we need to properly be prepared. We need to have contingency plans for this, so that the damage to these innocent creatures, innocent animals, and also the ecosystem is very minimum. And also the minister, I think day before yesterday, said that this chemical leak has caused the death of these sea turtles and other creatures, but we need to do necropsies and also see whether these chemicals have poisoned these sea turtles more. And also, luckily, there was no oil spill at the Express Pearl, but in the world, like there are small oil spills and also large oil spills, like in Mexico and in America, where there are large amounts of oil being released to the ocean, and sea turtles are one of the main victims of these oil spills. So these are some of the threats to sea turtles in the world. And also, since they are being used as a charismatic species and they've been an icon for marine conservation, this is they can use them as a catalyst for change. You know, like we can know a little bit about we can use them to understand about the ocean, to educate anybody about these oceans through like using these sea turtles as an example. And also we need a lot of funding for conservation, right? So let's say, for example, we are trying to reach a local community to educate them for turtle nest poaching. So to do that, we need some funding. So if we can use these sea turtles as an icon for fundraising, it can do a lot of good to these creatures. And also we can use these creatures to stimulate public and youth to support these marine species and the habitats. And these are some of the things that you can get involved. So you can help to safeguard nesting colonies. How you can do that is like sometimes when a sea turtle lay her eggs on the beach, we can just go there and like there are organizations doing these kind of projects. You can help these organizations. We put a little mesh over the nesting site so that the predators like dogs, wild boars, jackal, they can't reach the nesting site, so that it gets protected. And then this mesh size is quite enough for the baby sea turtles to crawl to the oceans. And while they crawl back to the ocean, there will be a lot of predators like seabirds and also crows and likewise. So if we can protect their way towards the ocean like this, they will just have, there is a chance of a lot of sea turtles going back to the ocean and then reaching their adult sizes. And also there are research going on to tag these sea turtles and then just to monitor their migratory patterns and where they go, so that we can properly initiate some management and also conservation projects based on where the sea turtles mostly roam around and so on. But in Sri Lanka, we don't have a proper, proper data or research for the population numbers and also the population trends and also their migratory patterns around Sri Lanka. And also, like I said before, all the 5 species of sea turtles are threatened in Sri Lanka, and that's why we need to monitor their migratory patterns. And this is where we need your help as well. So if you want to become a citizen science is someone someone from the public who wants to help for scientific research. And let's see how you can help some of the scientific research that we carry out. So this turtle photo ID, it is something like it is like identify each and every sea turtle, these individual sea turtles, using the scale patterns on their heads. So these scale patterns are unique to each and every sea turtle. It's like the fingerprint of you. So this is a scientifically proven method. And so if you take a picture of the scale pattern of a sea turtle, you can identify that sea turtle. So this method has been used for various other species as well. These are some of the examples. The manta rays have been individually identified using the belly patterns, belly spot patterns, and also the whale sharks have been identified using the patterns on their sides. And also dolphins have been identified using the nicks and notches on their dorsal fins, and also whales have been identified using their nicks and notches on their flukes. So these are some of the sea turtles that we have identified so far. So if it is a new sea turtle, like the photograph you take, if it is a new sea turtle, you can definitely name your sea turtle. These are some of the examples that we have in our database. So since March 2017, we have about 21 entries, not a big number. That's why we need your help to have more entries to our database so that we have a clear image of the population sizes around the country. And these photos are basically submitted by researchers, dive professionals, and also by some of the tourists who visited our countries before this COVID situations. And also all the turtles that we have in our database are females. So among them, there are about 18 hawksbill sea turtles, the one we mostly see in coral reefs, and 3 green sea turtles, the one most affected by this ship fire incident. And so this is how you can take a photo of a sea turtle. If you see one when you go out there in the ocean to the sea for snorkeling or diving, or sometimes when they come to very shallow areas as well. So if you see a turtle, you just have to take a picture. You can just use your GoPro to take a picture. So what we need is a close-up photo of the facial profile of the sea turtle. So it's better if you can take the both sides. So be calm, just don't rush. Take a picture of one side and then move to the other side and take a picture of the other side. And also, if you can take a picture of the carapace as well, this is just to make sure, like, we can identify the sea turtle using the facial profile, but the carapace picture will be more evidence to identify each and every sea turtle. So, and also if you can notice any remarks on the sea turtles, like sometimes you can see scars. Let's say for an example, if a turtle has been, predated by a shark, their carapace could be damaged. They may have scars somewhere, and also they can have missing limbs for various reasons. And also, like he said, like we discussed, they can have abnormalities. So if you can note down, or like if you can keep that in mind about their remarks, that will also be helpful to identify each and every like the individual sea turtles. And also it is really important to have the date of the sighting and the location of the sighting, so that we know where the sea turtle has been sighted. And if we see that same sea turtle in somewhere else around the country, so that we know this sea turtle has migrated from the place you have seen it to the place where the other person has seen it. So that's how this Sea Turtle ID project can help to identify the migratory patterns of sea turtles and the population size, to identify their breeding grounds, their feeding grounds, and so on. So if you happen to get any pictures of a sea turtle like that, their profiles and their carapaces, and if you can recall the site and the location, date and the location, you can simply send them to the Sri Lanka Turtle ID project using any of the platforms. You can just contact us using these platforms, and you can email the pictures to our database. And if you are lucky, you can name the sea turtle if it happens to be a new sea turtle individual that you have seen. And from this, I'm going to move on to another area, how we can help these sea turtles and also the other creatures in the ocean. So we talked about the green sea turtles. So these green sea turtles, they live in the seagrasses. So seagrasses are something like a meadow of grasses that you have on the land, similar to that, a meadow of grasses in the ocean. That's why we call them seagrasses. But these seagrasses, it is not quite familiar to most of you, because the main reason is that you have not seen seagrasses, and you quite often will have a snorkeling site on a coral reef, let's say Pigeon Islands, but we basically don't have snorkeling sites on seagrasses, right? So that's one reason that we don't get to see these seagrasses quite often. But they are doing, we talked about oceans producing 80% of the oxygen. They have been one of the places where these planktons have been roaming around, and also these seagrasses have been trapped the carbon in the atmosphere. So they are doing a great job. But unluckily, these seagrasses are fragmented now. That means like in the past, we had vast areas of seagrasses, mostly in the northern part and northwestern part of the country. But now, due to degradation, we have patches of seagrasses here and there. So what we try to do is to restore the places where these seagrasses are lost, and try to connect those patches so that we can create a vast area of seagrasses for animals to move on freely. So this is a project done in collaboration with OCEA, University of Peradeniya, with the funds from the Ruffin Foundation. And this is a project where you can volunteer. We need a lot of volunteers to plant these seagrasses. So what we basically do is, it's a very easy project, but we need a lot of people to plant these seagrasses. So what we do is we collect seagrasses, small plants, from a nearby meadow, and then we we mix the sand with fertilizers, and then we put it into a bag, and then we call it a Hessian bag. So, and then we prepare like the seagrass that we collected. We prepare these units of Hessian bags, and then we transport it to a location, what we call the restoration site, and then we bury these seagrass units, so that we make sure that we plant them with about 1 meter distance. So when they grow, when they have roots, they can have their own patches of seagrasses, and with time they all will link with each other, like a large meadow. And if we are really lucky, if we are really successful, these seagrasses will grow into large meadows in the future. So these are some of the underwater pictures of the restored sites. You can see that the new plants have been plugged from a distance, and we need a lot of volunteers for this. So if you, as a club or as an individual, would like to join this course, you can just drop an email or you can contact us through our FB page or Instagram page, so that anybody can volunteer. So with all that, like in sea turtle conservation or seagrass conservation, what we need is awareness, basically to young people and to small children, because they are the next generation. And mostly we do awareness to children and youth from the local community, because it's their grounds, right? They are the ones who are using these seagrasses, using these coral reefs for most of their parents are connected with these habitats through their livelihoods. So we do kind of awareness. So if you like, you can help in various you can come with creative ways to help these local communities or small children, right? You can come up with poems or pictures or whatever you can. You can just conduct small awareness programs for small children or like for youth. You can conduct small workshops where small children will come and do some activities so that they can have better understanding about the oceans. So these kind of things are key to the marine conservation. And also there are a lot of organizations in the country where we do cleanup projects, where they have some local volunteers for their research purposes. So these kind of things you can always volunteer. And also, these are some of the suggestions. There are many ways that you can help the oceans. These are just few examples. Like we know, some of us might need a sunscreen when we go to the ocean. Like if we go for a snorkel, we might need some sunscreen. I personally don't use sunscreen, but let's say there's someone who is with sensitive skin who might need a sunscreen, so you can choose wisely. There are sunscreen which are reef friendly. So this sunscreen, they have oxybenzone. So this oxybenzone is not good for coral reefs, and there are sunscreens maybe a little expensive than the regular ones, but these are reef friendly. They don't have this chemical. So you can choose those kind of sunscreens and wear them when you go out there to the for snorkelings or when you go there to the beach. Likewise, not just sunscreen, you have to choose everything wisely. We have some, we have a choice, right? You can use or you can buy a certain product with less packaging. So one good example is like if you want to have a drink, like you can, just have, if you want to have a, let's say, a milk packet, like you can simply, bring your own water bottle rather than just buying some drink from a shop. Likewise, those kind of things you can choose, right? You always have a choice, and you can do it. And also use public transportation. I myself use public transportation whenever possible, but there are certain times that we cannot use public transportation, especially like when we are in this pandemic, but whenever possible, try to use this, and that might help to develop this public transportation in the country as well. So this is what I was talking, like if you bring your own bottle of water, you actually don't have to use the milk packet, buy your milk packet from a shop, right? If you take this milk packet, you can see the packaging where the milk comes is it's plastic. It has a plastic coating, and then there is a plastic straw, and there is a small packet of plastic to have that straw inside attached to the milk packet. So you are using like about 3 or 4 small plastics when you could just simply bring a bottle of water, right? Water or whatever you want to. So likewise, and these are some of the examples where you can use a bag. You can use a bag when you do grocery and those kind of things. And this is a picture where when we were en route to Pasikuda and we wanted to have thambili. Of course, we all love to have thambili when it's sunny. So you can bring sometimes it's not practical to bring it, drink it from the thambili, and then you can use a metal straw. Like you can always have it in your purse. I just have it here, and then we have a small pouch, and then I have a few metal straws here. So likewise, you can just have few straws for yourself and for your friends. So that way, you actually here we have refused 5 plastic straws, and this picture is from a video where they take out a plastic straw from a turtle's nose. So it is quite sad to see that video. I couldn't get the video here, but if you want to see it, it's quite sensitive to watch. Like it's bleeding, and somehow they take it out from the nostril. But not all sea turtles are lucky to be treated like from veterinary surgeons like this to get your straws out of your nostrils. So the best way is to refuse the plastic straws and single-use plastics and other plastics whenever possible. And like in the picture, you can always refuse a plastic straw and just drink it from the glass. Or if you don't like it, you can have metal straws. There are alternatives, eco-friendly alternatives now, metal straws, bamboo straws, like you can use them. And also there are some research initiatives by our organization, and also there are various organizations doing marine research. And also you can help other wildlife or other habitat conservation projects like whenever possible. And also these are some of the examples from the internet. Like I'll tell my experience with the taking stairs. So I do yoga, and then it's in the 6th floor of a hotel. So what I do is I will not take the elevator, but will climb the stairs because I think it's a good warm up. So likewise, whenever possible, not always, you don't have to be perfect. Try to be imperfectly perfect. Try to do this whenever possible, not always. If it's not possible, try to do the smallest, the least thing you can do today, and it will make a big impact in the future. Like if we just don't throw the toffee wrapper today, it will, like when millions of people do the same, it's a big impact, right? So likewise, try to do the small things for the nature, and we all can hope for a better future with for the environment and for the animals. So something I believe is, like, when you learn about the marine environment or about the environment, and when you learn it, you understand it, and then you love it, and you will protect only what you love. So try to educate yourself more about marine ecosystems, sea turtles, or whatever the creatures you like to learn about, and help the oceans to recover and to replenish again. So I'd like to take some questions. I think we have.
Hi guys, so y'all can either drop the question in the chat box so I can read it out aloud, or if y'all are comfortable, you could turn on the mics yourselves and
Yes.
ask the question. In the meantime, if anyone wants to ask a question, I'll let them. But in the meantime, can I get to know about your seagrass restoration program? Like, how does it work? And like, how many people do you accept for it and all of that?
Yeah, like this seagrass restoration, it's in Kalpitia. So at a time, we can only have maximum 20 volunteers, because we have a boat ride that we have to take from the boat center. It's like you can see the restoration site from here, but you have to take a boat to go there. So these boats, and then we'll be there in the hot sun for about 2 hours. And also we'll be it's a place where there is a lot of mud, and then we'll be walking on this mud. So if you think you can tolerate these kind of situations, this program is for you. So we can have only about 10 would be the best. but we can have about 20 volunteers. So what you basically do is you just go to the site and then help us with collecting the seagrasses. Usually there are 2 assistants from our organization every time to collect these seagrass plants, because there are lots of different species of seagrasses, but we only use 1 species for our restoration project because it's the most successful one in restoration. So our assistants will collect these seagrass plants. So like you saw in the slides, you will be helping to mix those, make the mixture, the sand and the fertilizers, and then we usually do it on the sand patch that we have, and then you will mix it, and then you will prepare the Hessian bags, putting these fertilizers and sand to the Hessian bag, and then have the seagrass plant there. And you will also be helping to transport this seagrass plant to the restoration site. So it's very easy to help, but we'll be working in the hot sun for about 2 hours. So that's basically how it goes. Anybody is welcome for the restoration project. You can come individually or as a club. You can just have a day, a trip to Kalpitia, and then do some restoration as well, because why not? Yeah.
Also, I just had like another small question. When you showed the pictures of like turtle rehabilitation, I just want to know how effective it is, because you spoke about some turtles being disabled with all the ghost nets and stuff. So most of these animals are permanently disabled, and they probably will not be able to return to the wild, right? So how effective do you think this is? And like, especially with the human interference when rehabilitating turtles, do you think it affects their chances of surviving in the wild after being rehabilitated?
Yeah, a very good question, actually, I'd say. So you can see like some of the sea turtles, they are like, they only need a little bit of help to go back to the ocean. So the picture you see here, the sea turtle without the front flippers, this sea turtle, she can't go back to the ocean. The reason being that you need to have at least one of the front flippers to dive down, right? So they have to dive down to escape from predators and also to find their food, because most of the food is on the sea bottom. So if they can't dive down, they cannot go back to the ocean. So this particular sea turtle, and we had 2 of them without front flippers, they will have to be there forever until they die in the rehabilitation center. And they have a different program for them where they have this flying sea turtle project, where they send these disabled sea turtles to the zoos in other countries where they have larger pools, where they've been used for awareness about these ghost nets. So this type of sea turtles are also there, and there are most of the sea turtles that have been admitted to this rehabilitation, they can go back. Actually, it is not acceptable, or it is not good to handle them, right, like you said, but when they need help, we have to help them. So when they donate, like you can see that I'm trying to feed a sea turtle in the first picture, but it's not easy as you may think. They just don't come and eat whatever you give. They sometimes refuse because they are a little stressed, and sometimes when they start to dive down, we have separate ways to feed them. Like if they are refusing to eat, we'll have to try for hours using a forceps. You just have this piece of fish or a crab, and then you will just move it, so letting them to swim a little bit so they get some exercises in the pool. Otherwise they are just stagnant there, which is also not good. So we will try to move the food and then try to feed them, and if they are refusing, we will try to just throw the food, and then without them seeing us. And then if they're diving down, we will try to throw the food away from them so that they can do a little dive and grab the food. So that we are training them little by little to go back to the ocean, because they are from the wild. They were in the wild, so they are used to the natural environment. What they need is a little bit of help. And some of the sea turtles, they have lost their energy while they were struggling to get out of these nets. So they need some, like I said, they need some dextrose and energy. So in these cases, we have to give them extra, we have to give them supplementary. And also like in the rehabilitation centers, there are deaths of sea turtles where we cannot help the sea turtles, that they have come to a point where they no longer take some help. So in those cases, we will, when the sea turtle die, we do a necropsy just to see what is the cause of the death, usually to see whether there are any plastics in their guts, and likewise. And also this is done by resorts, usually the hotels in the area. So there are like about 5-6 hotels in the area coming together to build this rehabilitation center. So, and all the boatmen and the people who are taking guests out there in the water, and the fishermen are educated about the program. So they will always try to bring these sea turtles into the rescue center. And also there are sea turtles with buoyancy syndrome, so they cannot dive down. So we need to do some surgery for them to, for them to release their air and then dive down again. So those kind of things have been done. And also we must say, like, I must say that it is when they need help, we need to help them, to rehabilitate them. And the purpose of these projects are to release them back to the big blue. Yeah.
Adding on to that question I asked, like certain types of animals don't do that well in captivity, right? So
Yeah,
with
of
regards to turtles, how adaptable are they to living in zoos and stuff? Do they like develop diseases that they normally wouldn't living in the blue ocean?
it depends on the individuals, actually. These animals, they also have different personalities. Like some of them, they are quite adaptable, and then they are sometimes get used to us feeding them using a forceps. But some sea turtles, they refuse for a long time when it comes to feeding. That's the way of them saying, just it's kind of like we take it as like, let me die. Sometimes when sea turtles, they think that they no longer want to live, when they're stressed, when they know they can't die, they refuse to eat, and then that's how they dive in these rehabilitation centers as well. But that doesn't happen in most of the cases. We have different tricks, and we have different ways. We have veterinary surgeons where they help these sea turtles to recover. So it depends on the individual, but most of them, luckily, they adapt to this process. And it's just not that we are feeding and then giving injections. We there is a turtle care day every Wednesday. We weigh them, we clean their carapaces, because these sea turtles, they are not in the ocean, so they can't swim, right? They need to swim, otherwise they will get covered by algae when they are in the same place. So we clean their carapaces. And also sometimes they have scars, they have wounds they got from struggling to get out of the ghost nets. So we treat, you can see like in the picture, what you see in like yellow color, it's not blood or anything, it's betadine. So you have some drugs and then medicine for this to treat these sea turtles. So yeah, most of them, luckily, they go back to the ocean. The ones who have at least one front flipper, they mostly go back to the ocean. Some takes a long time, like about 1 year, 2 year in the rehabilitation center, but most of them, luckily, we can say they go back to the ocean.
And I have one final question. So, speaking about the Pearl Express incident, it's most related to a larger scale industrial thing, right? Industrial pollution and industrial plastic pollution. So, this is a political question, but what do you think that the governments of Sri Lanka or around the world can do to prevent this in a larger scale, to prevent incidents like this chemical disaster from happening?
Yeah, like I said, like these incidents are not very uncommon. This happens when there is a lot of marine traffic. And we should know that like this container, like this cargo ship, it has containers with plastic needles. So the plastic pallets, the small plastic pallets, so these pallets are being used to make these straws, the single-use plastics and polythenes. So this is what we consume, right? If we lessen the consumption, the demand is less and we don't need to transport this this amount of plastics. And that is one thing. And also as a government, so they have a proper, maritime law. There is International Maritime Organization where they have proper law. If you are in distress, you have to signal, and then you have to, as a government, from the port, you have to respond early. And those kind of things could happen, but we don't know what, until a proper investigation is done, we don't know what really happened. But we have proper plans to, prevent these kind of things. Every country has systems, but accidents can happen. But what we should do as a government is to, when the accident is happening, we have to be properly prepared to prevent further damage. And I'm happy to say that our forces and they help to clean the oceans. And there are some authorities, they work 24/7 to prevent further damage. And we need to have, we can make our laws more, robust, and then to overcome these type of things in the future. And we need to have proper contingency plans when it happens to, interact with these situations.
All right, Ms. Chathurika, that's all the questions I had. Does anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like, big questions. If you feel like, asking anything related to sea turtles, coral reefs, so any question you can simply ask. I'd be happy to answer your questions. Don't think that you have a dumb question, because somebody else might be having the same problem without asking it. So just go ahead and ask the questions so we can have a nice conversation and finish this.
Like, should we dive in to plant the grass
No, like we have
sea,
one.
or how is the project going on?
Yeah, good that you asked. So we have one project in Mana. So it is only done by scuba diving, and definitely we need properly trained people for that. And that's why I didn't mention about it. But the seagrass project that I mentioned here, it's in the shallow area. Like you can walk there. Like I said that it's a muddy area. So it's just about 1 feet water level. So you can just walk there and do the planting without any diving or snorkeling. You don't need any special skills to volunteer in this project. Just if you're happy to volunteer, then you are good to come and volunteer with us.
Is that all the questions we have from the audience? All right, I'm assuming that everyone had cleared their doubts, and I got the opportunity to speak to Ms. Chathurika. So I'd like to thank everyone. And now I would like to invite Leo Chiranjiva Desandani to deliver the vote of thanks for this occasion.
Good evening, all. It's a great honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks on this memorable occasion. First and foremost, I thank our special guest, Ms. Chathurika Munasinghe, the founder of OCEA Sri Lanka, who despite her busy schedule has found time to grace this occasion. And I also express my heartfelt thanks to the OCEA Sri Lanka team for their valuable contribution. My heartfelt thanks to the audience for the interest they have shown by joining our project. Last but not least, I thank all the members of the Leo Club of Pattaramula Synergy for your cooperation in making this event a resounding success. This event is very important for all of us, and the time and effort they put into the project cannot go unnoticed. Finally, I leave you this inspiring quote by Martin Luther King. An individual has not started living until he rises above the confines of his individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity. Once again, I thank you all for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Chira. So before we end the meeting, I would just like to let everyone know that we are hoping to conduct a phase 2 of this project, and we'll inform everyone of the details very, very soon. So once again, thank you, Ms. Chathurika, for joining in with us. It was a very informative session, and thank you for answering all my questions. And thank you everyone who joined in today and took a great interest in this topic. I hope you all continue to learn and research more about this. Thank you everyone, and good night.